My name is Gerald Jones, and I'm a visual artist, and I am participating in the Fulton Art Fair. For the 59th year we are celebrating. First of all, I want to wish everyone a happy Father's Day, and we will have a good day today. And I hope everyone participates will get some sort of entertainment and some sort of knowledge from the Fulton Art Fair. And I want to wish everybody, again, a good day. What I want you to do now is to focus on my art exhibit that I have, that I presented to the Fulton Art Fair for this year. These are 6 of my paintings here. I do a series of different methods, different sizes and different colors of paintings. I want to have you notice in this particular one, this one is called id, ego, and superego. The mask that we all wear when we exhibit our behaviors. I particularly chosen a woman because I think that they exhibit the most strong parts of our makeup, the id, the ego, and the superego. And I decorated with this type of ornaments. And it's also, I have it in the mask, where she masks egos.
Now, take your time.
I wanted to direct you to the first painting I have here. It's titled Ego, Superego, and the Id. I took those 3 features and incorporated into a masked female. And it demonstrates the 3 egos, the superego, the ego, and the id. I thought about that because we all have egos and superegos and masks, and I incorporated it into that particular painting. It was refreshing to do, because I had never did a piece like that, and to examine the context of human beings and human behavior. This particular painting is called Big Brother is Watching You. It's based on a novel from 1984, where Big Brother is watching you. And I decided to paint this one because of the atmosphere we live in, with the turmoil that we have in our society now, and all the confusion. And I thought about leaking. And I thought about the atmosphere of the enormous amount of avenues that the government had for surveillance. And so I decided to paint this one. And it's called, like I said before, it's called Big Brother is Watching You. And I hope he's watching me now. This one here, I thought about the terrible storm we had, the hurricane that we had. And I thought about Katrina and the storm that devastated that area, and the people that was devastated and affected by it. And I said, what I'm gonna do, I'm gonna try to illustrate it into one powerful signature, one powerful message. And what it was, I thought about the eye of the storm, because the most powerful thing about the storm is the eye of the storm, where all the generation, all the effects of the society was engulfed by the eye of the storm. So that's why I painted that one. I'm kind of proud of that one too. The next one is called Angela Davis, an image of Angela Davis. When I was growing up, she was one of my favorite idols. And she took a step that many people dared to take, and she became a member of the Communist Party. And she's a very educated person too. She's a very scholar. She attended many of colleges, and she became a prominent figure in the Afro-American society. So that's why I donated this particular painting for her. And to this day, I admire her for her courage and honesty. Okay, this one here I call First Lady. She's the first lady that I think of as Ella Fitzgerald, Billie Holiday, all the first ladies of Afro-American descent. And I try to paint her in a noble way and reflect the image of grace, love, and strength. And I did that one. I felt very proud of that one too. This was one of my latest works that I accomplished. I want to thank you for listening to me, and listening at me, because I enjoyed speaking about my art and about the Fulton Art Fair. It's like a second home to me. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to let you enjoy the rest of the art for this afternoon. And thank you very much.
Hello, my name is Okambi Pounds. I'm a watercolor artist here at the Fulton Art Festival. This is my first time participating at the Fulton Art Festival, and I have 3 pieces on exhibit. The first piece I have on exhibit, I refer to it as the Gold Prospect Miner. And this is a piece based on the coal miners in South Africa trying to make a living for themselves. The next piece is a rendition of my 2 granddaughters. I should say my 2 oldest granddaughters. Yes, and the third piece is based on the West Indian Festival in the Eastern Parkway, a brother playing his bell during the carnival. Okay, thank you for viewing my pieces. I hope you enjoy this and participate by visiting us down here at the Fulton Art Festival. Thanks again.
Hello, good afternoon. My name is Wilma Olivia Ward, and I'm here at the Fulton Art Fair, 59 years. And I'm an artist as of now, which is changing careers, which I was a nursing assistant at first for many, 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 many years. And the Lord blessed me to become an artist and join this beautiful organization that I have been with for the last 6 years, participant. And I'm very grateful and very thankful to be a part of this organization. And as a collagist, that's what I do. And that's all I can say about myself for now, but I just thank you. This first piece here is called Sparkling Gem, which represents us black women. We are sparkling gems whether you know it or not. This represents every last black woman that came forward to produce us as women, unity. And we need unity in the black community. And this represents her, Sparkling Gem.
Go.
The second piece here is Miss Brown Chocolate. She is delicious. Anything, any chocolate there is to eat, Miss Brown Chocolate is delicious. And the inspiration came from a piece of candy one day. And I looked at it and I said, you know, this chocolate's so sweet. So this is another representation for black women, women of color. But for all women, we are sweet, just like candy. Some of us are sour, but at the bitter end, we're sweet as a woman in general. This third piece, which inspired me, is Behind Closed Doors. There's so much that is hidden in our lives that go on behind closed doors that no one else knows about. Only one that knows is God, which I have to mention. He knows everything. So this piece here is inspiration behind closed doors. Whatever you have hidden will come to the light sooner or later, but for good, not for evil purposes, but this is behind closed doors. This fourth piece here is Play That Funky Music, which inspired me that play that funky music. Everybody has a tune and everybody has a song. So this piece here, which inspired me, is Play That Funky Music. And we all have tunes that we like and some we dislike, but everyone has a tune in life, and I hope that you enjoy this piece because it represents music as a whole, any type of music, from all over the world. People can relate to music. Music is an outlet to enjoy, to have a joyous time, a joyous occasion, or whatever the moment. You put on music, your mood change. So try to listen to a little more music in your day. This last piece here, piece number 5, is A Night in the City. A night in New York City, those memorable nights in New York City. Anything goes. Pink hair, green hair, brown hair, you get off the plane and you see it all here in New York City, the greatest city in the world, as they say. But I'm just glad to be a part of New York. But I'm a Brooklynite, so this is for Brooklynites here. A night in Brooklyn City, a night in New York City, just a night in the city in general. Anything goes. As you see the legs, they're disattached. When you look at the picture, we're a night in a city that shines very bright. Thank you very much. Hello. I thank you for listening to me. I thank you for enjoying my art. This is what goes on in my mind as a collagist. Things that happen in life to people and things and matters of all sorts. But I hope that you can understand what's coming from my interpretation of my art, which is collage. And that's what I do. A collage is a puzzle of life. Ups, downs, highs, lows, how wide, how deep. And I thank you. And this is the Fulton Art Fair, 59 years, 2017. Thank you.
Yes, my name is Mr. Clownsworth Jr., and I'm a member of the Fulton Art Fair organization. I have been a member with the Fulton Art Fair consortium for nearly 40 years, from 1978 to now. And I always make it my responsibility to come down to the event every summer, represent myself as an artist, as an African American of the Brooklyn community. As you can see, I like to do pen and ink and woodcut illustrations and whatnot. And the one in the middle is a drawing that I decided to do. It's from Deep South, from Clarksdale, Mississippi, and you see the men getting prepared to go to work on a cotton field. And they got up early in the morning to pick the cotton from the cotton field and tell the story about what they did in that time during the Depression era of the 1930s. In my second black and white illustration, you see men with their farming tools. They're getting ready to go to work in the morning time to pick some cotton from the cotton field. I did this one, this is in 1938, 1939, and this is during the time of the Depression, where black people made very, very little money picking cotton, gardening, whatever, at that particular time. So I did this illustration because it was very interesting to me, and I liked it. My third black and white illustration is titled Transporting Cotton. And after the cotton is being cut, picked, and processed, it goes to a factory outlet where it's processed. You see that the horses with the rider are transporting the cotton to different parts of the United States. But not only one wagon is traveling out of the factory, there's several. And they did this on a day-to-day basis. This is how they made their living, this is how they made their money. And the money that they made at that time was not that much money, but this was in Mississippi. And a lot of the work and stuff that goes on in the South, who at that time made very, very little money and to support their families. So that's why I chose to do this one. As you can see, I do not only do black and white illustrations, but I also do things in pencil and pastel. At the top, you see an interesting illustration titled "The Three Black African Musicians." This is before a time when America or the Europeans took us in as slaves, and shows us before we were taken as slavery, bring us to America, we were very, very rich in culture, natural resources, whatever, and at times we would have parties religious parties and things of the nature. And we had different types of African instruments, like the drums and horns, something they used during the period of Africa. It's the time for the colonization where we were taken as slaves. And we were a very, very rich country, physically, emotionally, and naturally. That's why I decided to do this particular illustration. Yes, my second pastel illustration is called Butterflies. That's also a pencil and pastel. As you can see, I love doing things from nature, doing flowers and butterflies, because then again, I was attracted to doing it when I was a little kid, when I was 5 years old. Since I'm older, I have the independence to do it freely on a day-to-day basis in my studio one. So, and also I like doing flowers also, because it's all related to nature. And I like not only like black and white illustrations, but I also like a lot of color in my work as well. Okay, my last art piece is called Spring Flowers. And that's titled Spring Flowers, and that's done in pencil and pastel. As you can see, I love doing things from nature. And I like drawing flowers and butterflies, things of that nature, because it's very, very colorful. And I've done it when I was young, at a very young age, when I was 5, 6 years old. And now that I'm older, I can do it again and again, but more professionally. But this is my sixth and last piece. Yes, this is the presentation of my work that I expressed to you, or whatever. And it's a joy doing this showpiece for you, and hopefully I'll be here next year with the Fulton Art Fair again in 2018. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Hassan Niels. I'm one of the artists here at Fulton Art Fair. I first participated back in '98, '99. It's now 2017. I'm here again, and my art name is Black Vengeance. That's it. And I'm from Brooklyn, New York originally. Hi, I'd like to present my first painting. It's called Black Warrior Dinas. It's a cultural, historical one showing an African warrior in ancient Mexico. These are the giant stone heads that they built, and if you go to Mexico now, you can still see them. I haven't yet, but I would like to. But the second picture here is another historical piece. I call it A Gift for the Queen. Depicts a Nubian queen receiving as a gift 2 of the enemy's heads with a pet leopard hanging down there. Hi, this third picture I have here is one of my fantasy pictures, heavily inspired by Conan, Frank Frazetta, artists like Boris Vallejo and Ken Kelly. This one's called African Swords and Sorcery. Here you have the sorceress energizing up the warrior's sword there, and they're fighting against the demons. A lot of my work, I like to show good versus evil. And this next picture I have here is another fantasy one. He's a warrior fighting this demonic tree creature, and he's also helped by the sorceress with her magic wand. This one is untitled. Okay, I did this one in 2013. Okay, this next one is my next to last picture. I did in 2012. It's another historical, cultural one, and this portrays, if not Hannibal, one of Hannibal's soldiers, one of Hannibal's generals, taking out the Romans. In the ancient world, everybody hated the Romans. The British, the German, even the other Italians hated the Romans. They were everybody's enemy. So I usually use the Roman as the ultimate enemy, bad guy of the ancient world. And this last picture here is another semi-historical one. It shows a group of African warriors defeating and slaughtering some barbarians from the north. I really don't have I do have a name for this one. It's called The Return of the Warlord. I also paint in acrylic also. These are pencil, pen, and color pencils. Like I said, I'm from Brooklyn, born and raised here all my life, and I'm also a guitar player. I play a lot of progressive rock music also, and I'm thankful to being at the Fulton Art Fair. Thank you.
My name is Diane Grisette Collins. I'm an artist and I live in Bedford-Stuyvesant. I'm part of the Fulton Art Fair. This first piece is an abstract. I like doing abstracts, even though for me they're challenging. It was a color combination of these two, of this small piece that got my attention as I was working. And I like the slice of texture that goes across the top. And I'm really pleased with this piece. I like doing faces, and this particular face is also done with piano keys next to it as she's listening to the music. She has a particular thought in mind because her eyes reflect that. I'm working on expression in the eyes. I think it's very important. It's another face that I like. I like drawing women. And once again, I do like to capture a certain expression in the face. And at a certain point in development, and this is probably someone about 14 or 15 years old, and I like the daisy in her hair, her name is Daisy. This piece here is abstract, and I was listening to a lot of political stuff that day and really missing President Obama. And before I knew it, his name was in the middle of the piece, and so I just left it that way. And I'm particularly fond of this piece of this young woman looking to her future and contemplating certain aspects of her life. And she is a star, and she's looking at the stars. This particular piece I like because it's very smooth looking. She looks smooth. The colors are wonderful, the pink and the lime green, and it's very easy looking. And she has a lot of attitude, even though there appears not to be much happening in this piece. I really like it. And her green sandals. I love the pink. And although my faces aren't of anyone in particular, they all look so familiar because I feel as though I've seen this woman in lots of different places. And she's really very easy and sophisticated looking. This piece I did when I was on vacation. I always say that I was going to paint something when I was on vacation, and I took a small piece of wood and like 3 colors and said, let me see what I can do with that. And I was sitting on a patio while I was away, and I painted this piece. And a lot of people have told me that it looks like my older sister when she was younger. And this last piece, I wanted something playful and with an attitude. And she has on a headband that has musical notes in it. And I love the side eye that she is giving, and the fact that it is somewhat abstract. Well, thank you for taking time to listen to my expressions regarding my art. And I'm part of the Fulton Art Fair, and I hope that you come out to see the artists at the Fulton Art Fair.
I'm Olivia Cousins, and I've been coming to the Fulton Art Fair since 1990, when I moved into the Bed-Stuy area. And my initial acquaintance with it was just like everyone else, just to walk down the fence, which had been transformed into a gallery, and to take a look at all of the magnificent, wonderful art pieces that were there. As I moved through my years, I have a daughter who was at the LaGuardia High School Performing Arts, and she was an artist, and had her mentored, if you will, by a number of the older artists who were on the fence, like Otto Mills, for example. And as she grew into herself, she started exhibiting on the fence, and so that became a labor of love, because it was an understanding that she now became a part of a collective of black artists that was one of the first black art collectives in the United States. And that had a lot of meaning for her as she prepared to go on and to move into her development as an artist. And then she continued that, and she showed on the fence. And one of the reasons why I'm showing on the fence, saying this, is that she was the impetus for my finally deciding to show on the fence. I, in the past, have done calligraphy, I've done photography, but wasn't really doing that in terms of show. And then along came 9/11. And as I moved through that particular piece and was trying to figure out how to heal from all of that, I went back to my art, particularly the collage. And I would take her pieces and form them into a part of my collage that was on the African burial ground. And she finally said to me, "Mommy, you know, you're taking my art and you need to create your own art." And I said, "So what does that mean?" "Well, you can't really use my pieces. You need to create your own art form because you can do it." So I took my ego and I said, "Okay, she's right." So I'll go back, and I started with the photography again. And I wove that into the collage again. And that's how I got back. And then I had really wonderful people, again, like Otto Mills just stands out, Joe Belbay stands out, other artists, older artists who were here were saying, you can do it, just find the time and to concentrate, and then do where your heart calls you. So since that time period, which is 2002, I have been doing art, creating art, and occasionally showing art. On that, the place that is the dearest to me in terms of being able to show my art, because it allows for a conversation with the community that is mine, Bedford-Stuyvesant, and to be able to see and to talk with people who are here who didn't necessarily know that Fulton Art Fair existed, and to be able to share the history on that. And then I think that once you become, what's really, really important to say about Fulton Art Fair and me, myself as an artist, is that I was blessed to be able to come into a collective. And a collective means that you do more than show your art. You know, what you have is that you have elders, you have people who are your age, you have people who are younger, and we talk about our art, and we talk about how we do our art, and it becomes very, very clear is that art is a definitive part of our lives and helps us to move through and to handle those things that come at us. But what we know and what we understand is that we're not alone. And that becomes very, very important, because when you get stuck, you know, or when it becomes really hard to concentrate or to do your art, someone reaches in or you reach out and they basically say, girlfriend, you know, young lady, not so young anymore, just go do what you were doing and move through it. So for me, it's been since 2001. The last couple of years have been difficult, you know, in that I haven't necessarily been on the fence, but still very much intricately involved with the Fulton Art Fair. And then finally in 2017, being blessed to be able to come back for a little bit and to show where I'm at in the development of my art, and look and smile also with my other colleagues who are artists, friends, and family, you know, who are here, and to see how we have grown and how our art has grown, and it makes you smile. And it helps to sustain us as we move through these different places and periods where art becomes really hard to do because there's so much blockage that happens. And you come to sacred spaces and places like this, and you learn how to unblock once again and simply do what you're called to do in terms of your art. So that's a vast, long explanation of who I am, a little bit of what I do, and the reasons as to why I do it, and why I feel so blessed to be a part of Fulton Art Fair. This piece that we're looking at right now is called Yes I Can. It's a continuation. The photography and the collage that I do has to do with recording our lives and documenting our lives. Where I've chosen to go is into what I consider to be sacred spaces. So where I initially started out was the the African burial ground, and then in marking what life looked like for us in terms of the African burial ground, to then go into those places and spaces that show and talk about how we have progressed since we were brought here back in the 1600s, and in New York City in particular, what that looked like for us. Even though we didn't think that we had to deal with lynching, here in New York. Lynching was very much a part of our life here in New York, particularly when you moved into the draft riots that were in Lower Manhattan, and you had black men who were lynched from those lamp posts that were there. Very much a part of our history in New York, very much a part of our story, here within this country. The movements that we moved through to protest. In this piece you see an original shot, very, very small, of Selma, that march on Selma, and then you see another shot that has that march when then Senator Obama and other members of the civil rights movement who are still alive crossed that bridge again. Back into looking historically, you see where we were in terms of the civil rights movement, particularly with the Freedom Riders and that whole piece that came together within song and the hand crossing that Bernice Reagan and her group were so much a part of, in talking about we shall overcome. And you fast forward and you take a look at what that looks like when you look in 2007 and 2006, and then culminating in 2008, how we came back together again, integrated. But it's the younger people that you see. It's those young people, specifically, who joined Senator Obama's campaign at that point and moved into the crossing of hands, that moved into the work. Yes, we can. It's looking at and focusing in on how our men were always central, women too, but in particular men out there, and very, very clear about who we are. I am a man, we are men, and despite all of those horrendous things that have happened to us, what we know and what we knew and what we understood was that change was going to come. And Obama was not the first person through whom change came, but he was the first person of African descent who we were able to propel, if you will. We as a people played a major role of propelling him into the White House and what that looked like, so that he became the first president of African descent, and he represented so much of what we had gone through in terms of the struggle, and he was very clear about that, but was also very, very mindful about the history that suggested, even as he was moving towards claiming that spot, that it would continue, and that the work always remains, because one way or another, as we move through how we change and continue to change the United States, we will have to deal with lynching. The lynching it takes on the form of the bullets, that we will always have to deal with the need to be able to come together amongst ourselves and with our allies, so that we can have a world that is going to change, and is knowing and understanding that even for those of us who are, this is 2017, even though it feels as if it has changed, but it hasn't changed that much, because we're still dealing with different manifestations, of plantation life. Another manifestation of plantation life is what? It's a penitentiary, so that you see back in there, those places and spaces where we have gone, and despite the fact that President Obama has moved in and is there, we acknowledge, and we get him to acknowledge and to say that this is still a part of what history and what reality present day looks like within the United States, and that there is even though we have moments in time where we can push forward and we can see visually the change, it's the memory that there's still so much work that needs to be done. And this particular collage, and image helps me to remember, and also helps me to understand the work that is undergirded by our hope, by our faith, by our trust, and our love enough of self that we know even when the stuff gets really hard, we still are going to change this so that it becomes a lifetime work rather than just something that's a moment in time. And so it captures a moment in time, but it's also looking at what happened in the past, and it's looking forward. This piece, in terms of the dove, there's a piece also, that dove is not just a dove, it's about the Holy Spirit. And it's about how Spirit comes in and it moves, even when we think that things just can't get any worse, and it does get worse. It's knowing and understanding that, these are moments in time, and we know whose we are, and we know who we are. That's what that piece represents for me. So that it's still, it's there. It records a moment in time that allows for talking and looking at what was happening previously, and also talks and suggests what can happen beyond where Obama was. This piece is a piece of, it's a shot, a photo of the new, we call it the new museum, short. It's called the National African American Museum of History and Culture. And the front, when I went in, I was trying to figure out which way to shoot. You just pray sometimes, and then it's just do the front and see what you get. And for me, what I got was, I got a ship, I got a boat. And then when I stood there and just went into whatever it is that I go into, what was coming out was, the boat is extremely important in terms of our history here within the United States, because initially, when we tell our real history, we came by boat. We came as traders. That was a part of our history before the enslavement. And then there was the enslavement and the boat and what that meant in terms of the different layers in which we were enslaved. And then there is that boat that has been recreated and refashioned that talks about how we move through. And in moving through, Sankofacating, we also go back and understand what our history and, more importantly, what our stories look like. So as I meditated on knowing those kinds of things, then what's the shot, that I'm looking for, and what's the shot that I'm going to get? And when I came out of whatever it was that I was in head on, that was it. And what I smiled about was that you can't see it here on the shot, but there were actually figures that were in that window. And I just kind of thought, oh my God. Okay, and I had not been inside the museum yet, but I just kind of remembered, I just want to get, when I get inside that museum, I want to get to that floor where that window is so that I can look out that window and see what, whoever those three people were, a man and two women, what they were looking at when I was blessed and allowed to be able to take that picture. But for me, it becomes really, really interesting. It also goes back to when we were deciding to try to figure out what shape this museum was going to take and where it was going to eventually be placed. There was a lot of talk about actually placing it closer towards the wharf area to be mindful, of the ships that were coming in. And eventually that was shouted down and voted down. So people were really, really clear that when we talked about when this museum went up, it was going up where every other museum was within the Smithsonian, and that we were going to claim our place. As we went through the history on that, and we got approval through a number of different amendments and votes to be able to put up this structure, more and more and more, the money disappeared. And then the more time, with the way that Washington works, the more time that you're in process of trying to figure out how you're going to build these structures, it gets more and more and more expensive. So we had permission, we had the structure, we were going through trying to figure out who the architects were going to be, and the money became smaller and smaller and smaller. And then it was going to be, so what does that mean in terms of this museum to be able to hold all of what defines us? And the blessing is that I'm not remembering the architect who's an African, whose design was eventually selected to be this. But what we do know is that he came with a vision, and that he did what many of the other people who had put forth the designs, he went down and then he came up. And in doing that, allowed enough space to be able to tell our stories. So again, for me, that going back to the whole piece around the ship and how I came and had that decision made to be able to shoot. And that actually is it's a third picture that I took. When I first came in on the opening of the museum, I took some snapshots at night, but really couldn't have just the museum by itself. And I really wanted that first formal picture that I took to be a picture of that museum by itself. And that's what I got on that, so that piece of it. And it's a work in process. I do collage, so at some point I'm going to go back, and the imaging, interestingly enough, of who was in that window, I got Frederick Douglass in the middle, I got Sojourner Truth on one side, and I got Harriet Tubman on the other side. Then I said, works for me. So when I go to put the collage and to rearrange this picture that I've taken in terms of photo, it will have the images of those three out that window, staring out the window. And significantly so, because when you go into this museum, their presence, those three, their presence is so very strong within this museum that it literally just makes you want to cry. And where their presence becomes really, really strong is as you move upward, as opposed to from where you start at the bottom with the story of enslavement and slavery and all those horrible things that went. Because in the middle is where we were able to come out in full strength and to say we will formalize what we need to do to make our people free. And it's not just one of us or two of us, but it's all of us. So that's my piece on that piece. Okay. This piece is really interesting. One of the things that happens for me when I shoot is that I wind up getting images imposed on images, and I haven't done the imposing that comes out. So when I had this developed and I looked at the concentric circles and I looked at the color that was coming out of that, and then I paid attention to what was coming up behind the museum. Behind the museum is a monument, and it's an obelisk, that is there. And there's a lot of talk and discussion about how that obelisk came to be and what it represents. Very significant in terms of people of African descent. And then when I came back forward and I was looking at what seemed to be appearing in terms of the sitting area that was there, I thought, I think it may be that with this piece, I just may leave it alone, and just let, however it is, whatever, when people look at this, whatever it is that they see, they see. When I see, particularly in terms of looking at that image, it's a phallic symbol of America's power, and then how light comes into that, I just kind of smile and say, okay, I got it. And then going back again, having gone into the museum and then coming out of the museum, as the colors become really significant because they are the colors of royalty, that are there. And for me, as I progress, the color of royalty actually starts in the bottom, and then it starts to fade. And then as you start to move up towards the middle, you start to get all of these accomplishments, that we have that are documented in song, in film, in storytelling, in pictures. It's amazing what's inside of here. And then as you continue to go up, And going up is it's not being able to, as with the Egyptian, you know, that piece where you go up as high, and the highest point means that you are there, and that's where you touch the face of God. For me, this feeling for me is that God encompasses this, you know, that we're right there. So I come back full forward, and it's a thinking and it's a reminding of not only of who we are, but of whose we are, and even in the face of penetration, you know, by the evilness that exists within our world, we stand. We stand, and we stand firm, and we stand proud. So for me, that's what that represents. And it's, again, usually I'll go in and I'll try and, you know, do some kind of collage piece that's there. And I've been sitting on the fence for a long time about what to do with that, and I finally decided, you know what, this is what it is for me. So that's it, and that's it. And you know, if people like it, fine, and if they don't, that's okay. You know, because this one was for me, you know, to be able to share with whoever is interested in having it shared. And then always the laugh out loud piece for me, it's on that sidebar piece. You know, it's that window again, you know, where I saw those 3 images that were there, and I'm thinking, okay, so maybe the message is that the images in the window change. When I first got it, it was clearly, it was actually Sojourner first, and then it was Douglas popping in, and then it was Harriet. And for here, I think the message that I got is that it changes, yeah, because we've changed, you know, and that in the end, the image that's in there is my image, you know, and the image of my peoples with whom I've worked. It's when others look, maybe they will see themselves in the images of their folks and their peoples with whom they work. Because I think part of the whole thing around naming, you know, and we need to be able to name ourselves for ourselves, you know, to be able to continue to do the work that is done, even in the face of the more, this is 2000, this is June, 18th of 2017, and 2 weeks ago, some demonic spirit got into the museum and put up a lynching rope. And nobody could figure out how, except that it was there, and it was a message, you know, that was there, and people just kind of moved. You know, what happened first was bringing in our spiritual groups, not just religious, but our spiritual groups, to do that cleanse that needed to happen, because it was that demonic piece that was saying, no matter how popular, you know, this museum is, to date there have been over 3, 4, 5 million people who have gone through this, and it's extremely hard to even get in here, but yet that some demonic force could get in there and could put up a lynching rope to send a message. And then it's the way that we were able to come in and to stand and to say, keep coming, make your best shot. But the bottom line is that you can't destroy this, because not only do we know who we are, but we also know whose we are. So, all that to say is that I suspect that this piece will stay as it is. There'll be no going in and doing some kind of you know, collage, you know, or reworking, or trying to put it into some other kind of creation. And this actually is probably out of all the shots that I have of the museum on the outside, even the nighttime shots, this is the one that I really like. This is the one that hangs for me in my place in space. So when things get really, really bad, I go, don't have time for this, because this is my people. It is my people. And the beauty is that my people, we're talking about peoples of African descent, because all of us are represented there. All of us are represented there. Diaspora, our story. Africans in the diaspora, all of us are inside that equal time. But what makes me, I'm African American, what makes me happy is that the telling of that story is coming through the African American experience. And that's really clear. It sets it.
Good. Okay, what you do now is this.
What do I do? Okay. When I move to share these pieces that I've created, I'm always very, very careful about where I go. And for sacred sites, for those pieces clearly that are of us, what I've always done in the past is at Fulton Art Fair is where I come and where I introduce those images, where I have the conversation with my collective and my group about the piece that I've done. And oftentimes it's not even about form or structure, but it's about, in a word, how it makes people feel. And then when the words come, they're words that are encouraging, that basically say, you know, you've got something here, and I like it. You know, it may need a little bit more work, it may need this or that, but what you have is in and of itself complete. And then you will have to sit with it and figure out, based upon your skills, based upon what comes to you in spirit, how you want to, and where you want to take this once you leave Fulton Art Fair. So for me, the blessing has been because these shots that I made and that I put together were done last year for the museum when the museum opened, and then the collage piece has been pretty much hidden. I really have not shown that collage piece outside of one of the galleries that I work with, Zion Gallery. So it has been a real blessing to be able to be here in the kickoff of Fulton Art Fair, to be able to show and to see what my collective thinks and how this makes them feel. How we tell our stories, you know, and what our stories include are extremely important. And what's most important for everyone, you know, who's telling stories, particularly for our people of African descent, is that we tell all of our stories, and we tell the truth of our stories, and it's from our perspective. We talk about, how when the slave trade started, you know, that slavery existed within Africa, and that's why it was so easy for the Europeans to come in and to buy us or to take us from inside those groups, those tribes, those people who already held us in enslavement because they won wars over our village, you know, or was some kind of power play that was going on. And then for those of us too powerful in Africa, even when you have a system where you go in and you allow those people who you have enslaved to become free, there are some of those members you don't want them, and you want them as far away from you as you can. And when Europeans come in and they have their ships, and because you've been trading with them, you know that those ships are far enough across the ocean that those enemies are never, ever, you think, gonna come back. So when I look at this, it's the devastation, it's the treatment, you know, it's the, we have the, it's interesting in that we have, it's primarily here, it's primarily men, and that's right, because the folks who were taken in enslavement and sent across the seas, particularly to places like the United States, to places like England, you know, real white places that were there, where the indigenous people had been destroyed, were the men. Because and it's not that they didn't enslave the women. The women who were coming on the slave ships were the most problematic. They're the ones who were the more resistant. Those were the women they put on that slave ship. The other women, they kept hard piece, they breeded. So that a market was created. And the market was focused in on bringing out as many black African men as they could. And in particular in terms of the Atlantic, that's the story of the Atlantic slave trade. And then it's when the slave trade was abolished in 1833 and they weren't allowed to go in and do the enslavement. They had it set because then it was the breeding that was going on in the United States. But also, I think when I look at this, she is the women that they took were the women who were the strongest. And when I look at her, first of all, she's not naked. She's got clothes on. She's got something around her head that for me symbolizes royalty. And again, going in and trying to break up those groups, they took out the royals that were there. But particularly the men, and particularly in the women who were the least resistant, get them out of here. So when I see this, that's what comes in. And I also see, an understanding that it wasn't just Africans. We're talking about we're talking about the Arabs that came in, because when I look at this, it's not so much West Africa. This is East Africa. And this is the slave trade that they don't talk about. This is when we talk about our folks coming out and who was doing the capturing and the slaving and taking out of the African continent and to where. This piece right here helps to tell the story that it wasn't just African enslavers and European enslavers. How are you? How are you?
Yes.
But it was also the Arabs. Deal with it. So that says that to me. And it also, going back to the museum, it's right in line. When you come in and you start that bottom floor, this is what you see. So I don't know if you've been to the museum or not, but when you go, you'll see what I'm talking about, because this is what you see. And that's the story that very often is not told. You need to have the whole story to understand how we came to be here. We are a spiritual people, and what guides our spirituality is our creativity. And it's a creativity that is directly connected with our art and our culture, and being able to say that, to sing it, to draw it, to paint it, to form it, to shape it. So then when I look at this picture here, all of that is inside here, along with some of the symbols that are unique in terms of our definition as, I don't want to say tribes, or as people, because it breaks how to say, when they went into Africa, they carved it up. They carved it up into parts and pieces. And I think for this, what it does is that it brings it back together, and it says that this is who we are and this is what we look like, not just one particular face or space. And then color becomes really important. Symbolism, particularly in terms of whether you call it the triangle, whether you call it Sankofa that's falling up in here, whether you call whatever it is that you want to call it, some of those images are very much in there. So that's what I see, and it makes me smile. And that's when I look at this, this is the first thing that I see. And it's strength, and it's beauty, and it's resilience. And it's in your face. It's I am who I am. And then because it's two, for me it's male and female, which is that, and they're side by side. We are who we are. And then you look at what happened and the story of once upon a time, we were taken out. We were put on ships where either they knew, both Africans who traded us and the whites who bought us, that maybe a half of us would survive. And those ships looked like this. And those ships came out of England, and they came out of the United States of America, or what had become the United States of America. And then for me, this charts what happened when we came into what became America. Not because the United States, North America is big, but this focuses, for me, the story of the United States and what happened. And it's where we were brought into. We had skills, and they purposefully, when they were doing the West African piece, they were very clear about where they wanted Africans coming from, because we had skills in being able to grow. We had skills in being able to withstand, all kinds of, heat, etc. And when you look at this, and then you also look at this, it's cotton, and cotton was their king. And cotton was their way of being able to make the money and set up the laws that would confine us and that would destroy us. So I see that. But I also see men, I see women. I don't know what's going on over here, that's there, but I see the women, I see the men, and even with the way that this back right here, there's a strength. I'm assuming that that's cotton, may not be cotton. But what I see is, even within this, I see strength. And then, one of the stories, tales, lies that they tell about us is that we did nothing. We did nothing to resist. Before I go to that, it's like here, and actually, rather than starting here, it's going here, because that refers to the involvement of African slavers, just call it what it is, who wound up making the deals, getting the money, and selling us, putting us on that ship, and then when we came off of those ships, and those ships were coming from where? When they started coming out of the United States, they were coming out of Rhode Island. They were coming out of New York. They were coming back into those places, that were there. And then when they came back on places, for me, this is Wall Street, because I'm New York. I'm not going to deal with, I know about what happened in the South, but I think it becomes really, really important to talk about what happened in North and South. And in North and South, whether it was on the auction blocks in Carolina, South Carolina, or if it was on Wall Street auction block, that's what this looked like. That's what this looked like on that. And so it's true to form. And then what we did, we were just not, we freed ourselves. Couldn't go back to Africa, but we could get up in one foot in front of another. We came out of that, and we moved out of that. And when we came, it wasn't just as individuals. We took our families, tell the truth. It wasn't just the men running away and saying, I'll come back and get back to you. It was families who were going and who were traveling. And then there were some, for me, this is almost like Harriet Tubman, that's in there, because she was so significant with being able to whisper and to say and to remind, this can be done. And this is the way that you do it. And then as we go through, the struggle and our achievements and all that, then you look at the piece that's missing is, I'm looking for the women here. I just need to say that. I'm looking for the women here. But the comfort is that, it's Marcus Garvey. It's Martin Luther King. It's Malcolm X. This, I'm assuming, is this Mandela? Nelson? And that these three male presence, as different as white people want to say they are, they're the same. they are the same, because each one of them, in their own way, were talking about the freedom of our people and provided black prints on how to do it. And in reality, we're more in sync with one another than what most people know. So I smile, and then the mic is tell it, just tell it, you know. And then around each of them has passed, you know, but the energy remains the same. So this is a nice piece. This is a very nice piece. This actually would fit well within the museum. I think they're still going around, you know, looking at and interviewing pieces that are there, and this fits in with, in the end, the message, you know, that they want to give, you know, because it's a weird, you know, you can't. And before I be a slave, I'll be buried in my grave and go home to my Lord and be free. But while I'm on this earth and on this planet, I will resist. By any means necessary, I will resist. I will lay my life down. I will pick my life up. I will resist. And I will achieve in your face. You can't touch me, because this is who I am. That's what this piece says to me. I love it. And then this right here visually, this piece here, then you identify. You identify us. And what's the beauty of it is that it's not just, it bespeaks of our roots and where we came from. You know, so that it's a reminder, you know, it wasn't just from Africa to the United States and here, but it's also, it's our West Indian heritage, you know, that's coming up. Who knows, you know, about the West, we know about the West Indian heritage of Marcus Garvey, right? Do we know about Malcolm X? Yeah. Do we know, yeah, Du Bois is a harder read, you know, in terms of that, but again, struggling and moving through that. You know, these two, it's interesting, you got these two, it's how you have them bordered, right? These two are educators. Bethune and Booker T are educators, but one of our strongest educators was who? Sojourner. So it's where you have them petition our fighters, our folks who fought, these two.
Excuse me, sorry.
Fought physically with their bodies, those two. And then our philosophers, our thinkers, why inspiring people, these three. So the only thing that I would say is that if you ever decide to do something, to do another one, put the women in there, yeah, because there are other women. And part of the difficulty is that for so many of us, we were written out of history, so that we're in process of recovering so that we can share and tell our stories, for some of whom are just as riveting and just as profound as the stories of our people who are here. You know, but you have, if you have a roll call, you know, and who's represented, yeah. Because for every single one represented here, there are remnants of their movement. And that becomes so important, because you're always looking for the remnant to be able to read. I deal with my imaging is a quilt, and it's a quilt that's whole, but it's a quilt that also has the different stories, you know, on it, but it's whole.
Hi, my name is Melvin Isaac, and I'm at the Fulton Art Fair on Fulton Avenue in Brooklyn, New York. This is our 59th exhibit, and this is my second year as a member. So far, I really like the show. I really like the people that I'm working with as in the committee. And within the committee, I signed up to be the web developer, the designated driver to take things around, you know, like when we have our art, we need to get a U-Haul truck, we need to get the generator, we need to get a lot of stuff down to the Fulton Art. So, you know, I'm part of that to really help out, and also whatever is needed, you know. So my work is already explained, and the next time we have our next art exhibit, I will definitely be here again too. So thank you again for listening to me. And again, my name is Melvin Isaac. I'm part of the Fulton Art Fair. I'm a membership. And I'm also part of the Brick House, which used to be the BCAP, but now it's Brick House. And I have a show that's on there that shows every Thursday, and that's called the Artistic Talent Show. And that's air at 10 a.m. and 6 p.m. So I welcome you there to visit my show, and also visit my website at www.artistictalentinc.web.com. So thank you again. My name is Melvin Isaac.
Hi, Larry Weeks. I'm out here at the Fulton Art Fair. This is my second year, but it's the 59th year of the Fulton Art Fair. So it's a pleasure to be out here today. We're all artists out here trying to show our work and bring art into the community in lovely Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn. This first piece is called Yoruba Spirit. It's based upon artwork from a Yoruba drum. This piece is done in a medium called China marker. It's a wax-based pencil, and I try to capture the spirit of an African drum. Okay, this piece is called Say Their Names. And I'm going to say the names of the three little girls in the picture. We have Cynthia Wesley, Carol Robertson, Addie Mae Collins, and Denise McNair. This piece I created is based upon the four little girls who were killed in Bethlehem, killed in 1963 at the 16th Street Baptist Church. So I named it Say Their Names so that people can say their names, so their energies and their souls can be alive with us. So it's a historical piece, and I think it's important. Our young people don't know the sacrifices that were made to get voter registration. And so this is a homage to the four little girls who were killed by an American terrorist. All right, this piece of art is called the Mother Spirit, Oshun Mother Spirit. So it's an interpretation of the energy of the mother, birthing the children and taking care of our children and our energies. This is also done in watercolor pencil. Thank you very much. Visit Fulton Art Fair online at fultonartfair.net. Have a good day. Thank you. Okay, hold on. This is a citation from the Borough President's Office recognizing Fulton Art Fair for 59 years of service in the community. Fulton Art Fair is one of the longest black art organizations in the city, and we're continuing on to make things better and better, become a bigger and bigger conduit for artists in the neighborhood and bringing art to the neighborhood.
My name is Ba Jibril Ngawa. I am a visual artist from Mauritania. I came today to meet my friends at the Fulton Art Fair. Initially, I just came to do some painting. Like I had these 5 small canvases, and I wanted to do my free expression because I feel very inspired in this period of time. So while I was doing the work, Gerald Jones work and the fellow artists came in. They say, oh, please come, hang with us. So okay, I say, oh, okay. So that was my recollection. But I was coming to meet them, to see them again. But I wasn't planning to be here this year. But I ended up be here by doing these 5 paintings. Okay, when I brought these 5 small canvases, I started to work on them. And as I said, this is a period of time that I am very inspired. I have just energy. I have a lot of feeling that I want to put out. So I interacted with what I have spent to do these 5 paintings. And this is the first one because I wanted to see something green, but the whole thing is like movement. Movement and gestures and interacting with colors. Until now, I don't have any title for all these 5, So it is different type of expression. Here I use just the blue, I use the blue, so I see a lot of images in it, and it was just a feeling that I expressed. It is the beginning of a body of work that I am doing, which is expressing my internal feeling, the energy I feel. I want to put it out in form of a body of work, like it is hand movements, interaction with colors, lines, and also the reflection of light when you are in the shadow. So that is that. So this one essentially is the reflection of light when I was in the shadow. So you see different line, different form, the different form, the figurative forms in it. The black lines are the form that the shadow gives. are the form that the shadow gives.
And this one right here.
This one?
Yeah.
Yeah, this just I use the blue to do forms and lines. But essentially, I don't have yet any title. I have to stay with them maybe a couple of days, and then maybe a title will come to me. But for now, they are all untitled. It is hand movements, interaction with colors, and it is free expression, just a set of free expression. Thank you for coming here and filming and documenting this historical moment. And the Fulton Art Fair is where I really started, and things started here because when I came from Mauritania, they invited me to come to the Fulton Art Fair, and I started here. I grew up with the art community. It was a very important venue for me to have this connection in New York City. Thank you so much.